Okay guys, welcome back to another video, and this week we will be looking at completing the square. This is following along from the quadratic series that we have going on right now. So completing the square is basically just another way of factorizing, right? And one of the beauties of maths is the ability to illustrate topics, right? So completing the square is one such thing. And I want you to look at this, right? And if you look at this, you can see that it was a rectangle that I split up in such a way that you have a square with side length x on one side, and then you have a rectangle, base b, and obviously length x. I want you to imagine that I further split this guy into two, right? So now each of these have a length as a base of b over 2. And we take this section and put it on top, right here, on top of this square. So how would that look? That would look something like this. Right, well, we have the same old x, okay, that's still the x, and then on this side we just have a b over 2. Okay, let's just draw that x squared. That's an x squared. Now this is the b over 2. We split the b into two sections, and then the other section we've taken it right up here. Okay, this is still x, that's still x, this is b over 2. Now if you notice over here, we're missing, if you look at this thing, right, it's basically a square minus that square, that mini tiny square at the top. And if you were to complete this square, well, it's a complete square. And that's where the name completing the square is derived from, right? And this is a very useful thing to illustrate this. How so? Like this. Well, if you look, you can say that this is x squared, right here, plus bx. Right? What do I mean? X squared, you get the area of this, plus bx, right? Which is b times x. Now this thing is the same area, but we have a simple way of saying this. Now we can say that this is x plus b over 2 squared, right? Now just imagine the entire thing as a square, okay? X plus b over 2 squared. So now you have the entire area. But we don't want this area. We don't want this square. Minus b over 2 squared. Okay? And this is how to complete the square for something like this. Right? If you have something in this form, x squared plus bx, you can just complete the square by doing this. So let me take you to the next section where I will demonstrate this further. Okay, right back into it. So this is the formula that we derived from that amazing illustration. And the way let me just illustrate it to you in another way, right? Let's say you have x squared plus 4x, right? And you want to complete the square for this. First of all, remember this is the b. You're just going to divide this by 2. You're going to get x plus 4 over 2 is 2 squared. Okay? For now, I want you to forget about this part, right? Just focus on this. And I want you to expand these brackets out, right? Expanding these brackets, you can do x plus 2 into x plus 2. Then we apply FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. And we get x squared plus 2x plus another 2x gives you plus 4x. And then plus 4. Now, if you compare these two, it's exactly the same thing, except this 4 at the end. We don't want this. This is where this part comes in. This is where you get the subtraction, because if you look, 4 over 2 again is 2. So you get minus 2 squared, which is 4. So if you subtract 4 from this, these two cancel out, and you're left with the exact same thing. That's how completing the square works for something like that. But you might be wondering, hey Usman, what about if the x has something in front? What about something that's greater than that? Well, I'll show you how to do that as well. Yep, I know what you're thinking. That is an ugly equation. Memorizing that would be painful. And I agree with you. I've never memorized that, and you don't need to. You have to just go back to what I taught you before, the x squared plus bx, and how that simplifies in with all that illustration. And okay, yes, you could apply this formula and it will work. If you're good at memorizing stuff and applying stuff and you like formulas and all that, this is your thing. Go for it. And that's as simple as it is. However, for me, well, I like to go back to something more simplistic, right? To illustrate this again, I'm going to give you an equation. 3x squared plus 6x plus 1. Sorry, an expression, right? And we want to complete the square. Obviously, we can factor this like I showed you before. You know, you can use a formula and all of that stuff. But we want to complete the square over here. Now, how do we go about with this? First up, I want you to just imagine that, well, just move the plus 1 a bit further away. Just deal with this part. Okay, just look at these two terms. And what's common in them? Well, obviously 3 and x are common, right? But don't take the x in. Leave the x as is. Take out the 3. By taking out the 3, what you've done is you've isolated the x. When you've isolated the x, you'll see that there's no coefficient for it. And you're left with 2x over here, right? In this situation, we got lucky where they both shared 3. However, always just try to take the number outside over here. Let's say this was 5. Take the 5 as a common, and then you have 5, and you have 6 over 5 over here, right? So when you multiply it out, it goes back to normal. Now we have this, and obviously the plus 1 from on top. If you pay attention to this part, it's the same as last time. It follows the same, it has the same form as x squared plus bx. And we know how to complete the square for that. It's really easy. Well, we go forward, do 3, remember that's big brackets, into, and remember how we did that last time? We do x plus 2 over 2, which is 1, x plus 1 squared, minus 2 over 2 again, which is 1, minus 1 squared, which is 1. That's it. Close the brackets, plus 1. Now, we just have to multiply the 3 out. So we go 3 into x plus 1 squared, minus 3 plus 1. We can obviously add these two. So you get 3 into x plus 1 squared, minus 3 plus 1 is negative 2. And that is your square completed. Now, if you look at this, this is in a certain format, okay? The format is as such. P into x plus q squared minus or plus r, okay? And this format right here, this is known as the completed square form, okay? So we have to remember this. And sometimes they ask you to leave it in completed square form. What you want to do is bring it down into this, right? So when they've given you this expression, let me just write it one closer. When they've given you this expression and stated complete the square for this, leave it in completed square form, okay? And looking back at this, comparing these two, we can say that P is equal to 3, Q is equal to 1, and R is equal to negative 2. Okay, and that just about covers it up for completed square, for how to complete the square. You can use all the formulas that I wrote, okay? I'll rewrite them for you right here. So you can say, that's one formula, right? That's the big nasty one that I never bothered to memorize. And then there's this one, and this one you have to know, right? So there's no escape from that formula. And you can go around and memorize these two, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Or you can learn how to apply these and understand the deeper meaning behind them, right? And how that square at the start of the video, that's how it works. And I hope that you guys learned something today, and see you next time.